Election on ease, support for small businesses, and oil under pressure. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Monday, August 4, 2025. I'm Rondine Williams. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the newscast locally, Jamaica's economic stability holds firm, but election uncertainty casts shadow over investor confidence. On the regional front, the Inter-America Development Bank launches business support desks to unlock small and medium enterprise financing in Guyana. And over on the global stage, WTI crude oil futures slipped below $67 amid OPEC Plus production increase and rising geopolitical tensions. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
Let's all get fit. This summer set drip. Hip dips and split. Power in the mind, let's get healthy with it. Sometimes your body's so hard, but your body wants it. And then your head is so home, and it's so like this. So we gotta go 1, 2, 3. One more now. 1, 2, 3. Let's go. One more now. 1, 2, 3. One more now. 1, 2, 3, go.
Me grew up and see my granny and save her money under her mattress.
Exactly. Your grandmother house never burned down?
No, how you reached that, so? That was a one-off thing.
That could have happened to anybody. That's why you must put your money in a financial institution and protect it.
What if the bank crash?
Well, that's where JDIC comes in.
What you mean?
JDIC is a financial safety net which provides coverage for your money in case your financial institution fails.
Explain that to me.
Alright, because of the JDIC deposit insurance scheme, once you put your money into a financial institution like a bank or building society, you can get coverage of up to a maximum of $1.2 million per deposit of your financial institution if it should fail. And for even more information, you can visit their new website at www.jdic.org, and you can follow the social media platforms for the latest information.
JDIC, protecting deposits for you and me.
Serious about building Jamaica? Build with solid PVC pipes and conduits, manufactured in Jamaica by Phosphate, made to the highest standard. Solid PVC pipes and conduits are made in Jamaica by Jamaicans for Jamaicans. Available at hardware stores across the island. Take some solid advice, support our economy, and build well. Buy solid PVC pipes. Next time, ask for solid brand PVC pipes and conduits. Call our distributors or Phosphate at 876-937-5099.
If it were not for the Jamaica Stock Exchange listing, Phosphate Company Limited would not be where it's at today.
FESCO started from 5 shareholders who believed that they could execute a fuel company as good as or as better than any multinational.
Caribbean flavors and fragrances. I have seen that our company has expanded tremendously after being listed.
Our experience so far has translated into additional customers.
Being listed on the stock exchange allows us a certain prestige. It also speaks to accountability and transparency.
Our transparency has allowed us to access credit easier and at better rates.
We have expanded in terms of our customer base, in terms of our suppliers.
All the fears I had about banks, about losing control, you are having them. And I tell you, they were dissipated when I spoke to the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
So if you're a private company thinking about growing your profits, having better access to capital, I really think you should consider listing on the junior or the main market.
You may have fears in listing on the main market or the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Whatever those fears are, we can help you to allay them. Give us a call today Our friendly professional staff will help you through the process. Let us have that conversation. Give us that call.
Go ahead, have that conversation as soon as possible. We did it and we're very happy.
Make that call now.
You will be glad you did.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with growing business sentiment ahead of Jamaica's impending general elections. With general elections on the horizon, Jamaica's economy stands at a crossroad. After years of hard-won macroeconomic stability, businesses are now eyeing the political season with cautious optimism and a touch of anxiety. The big question: will Jamaica stay the course, or will election politics rattle investor confidence? Speaking during an interview with CBX News earlier today, local economist Keenan Faulkner says while macroeconomic fundamentals remain broadly stable, businesses are bracing for the uncertainty that often comes with election cycles.
Jamaica's economic trajectory and its overall macroeconomic profile could be described as stable. All of the macroeconomic fundamentals and indicators, with the exception of growth, are trending in the right direction, and Jamaica has achieved a certain level of stability that is unprecedented in its independent history. However, this election period does bring with it some amount of uncertainty for businesses and the decision making that needs to happen therein, because businesses will now have to think about any potential policy changes and consequently how they will have to adjust.
Mr. Faulkner says while the parliamentary term is winding down and elections are expected soon, the lack of a firm date is already creating a drag in boardrooms.
So more certainty and greater predictability is always in the best interest for investor confidence, and the only way that can necessarily be achieved is if you had a fixed election date. And while the parliamentary term is about to end, so you have some degree of predictability of when the election will happen, the period overall is still riddled with some uncertainty.
That was local economist Keenan Faulkner. The Jamaica Stock Exchange JSE is attracting international attention for its innovative market structure, particularly its fast-growing junior market, now viewed as a blueprint for developing economies aimed at expanding small and medium enterprise SME financing. In April, chairman of the Rwanda Stock Exchange and founder of Feda Investment Bank, Bob Karina, visited the JSE to explore the driving force behind the stock exchange's success. Despite a population of just 3 million, the JSE boasts 120 listed securities across 5 segments: the main market, junior market, USD market, bond market, and private market. Speaking during an interview with Kenyan Wall Street CEO Andrew Barden recently, Karina highlighted the junior market as a standout model. He pointed to its targeted tax incentives as a key driver of SME participation and market growth.
And what we found was that there is a segment they call junior market. It's like the mid-tier segment. Anybody who wants to list in that area, you don't pay any corporate tax for 5 years. And then for the next 5 years, you pay only 50% of the corporate tax. So this is something we felt should be introduced in the regional governments to know that it will help the companies or the exchanges to increase the numbers of listed companies, which will grow by not paying the corporate tax, because that money which they were to pay as tax is reinvested back in the market.
That was chairman of the Rwanda Stock Exchange and founder of Feda Investment Bank, Bob Carino. And one of Jamaica's largest conglomerates, Grace Kennedy Limited, is reporting mixed results for the 6 months ended June 30, 2025. Revenue climbed to over Jamaican $89 billion, up to 5.5% or Jamaican $4.63 billion when compared to the same period in 2024. However, profit before tax dipped to $6.11 billion, down from $4.46 Jamaican dollars last year, while net profit attributed to shareholders fell 4.2% to 4.25 billion Jamaican dollars. The company says the results reflect a challenging operating environment, including global supply chain uncertainty and inflationary pressures. Still, Grace Kennedy's food division delivered strong growth with a solid performance in its Jamaican food distribution businesses, high-low supermarket chain, and international subsidiaries. Meanwhile, the group's financial services arm recorded strong results in insurance, with GK General Insurance and Key Insurance leading the way. Grace Kennedy recently completed the acquisition of 98.8% of Key Insurance, increasing its stake from 73.2% in a Jamaican $385 million transaction. Grace Kennedy is also declaring a third interim dividend of 55 cents per stock unit, payable on September 22 this year, totaling roughly Jamaican $543 million. During the period, the group also welcomed Frank James as group CEO, following the retirement and recent passing of longtime executive Don Webby. And now for news from the Bank of Jamaica on how the currency markets traded today. In Monday's trading session, the US dollar is selling for $161.13, the Canadian for $117.17, the pound for $213.68, while $186.14 is the going rate for the euro. And we go now to trading news from the Jamaica Stock Exchange. In Monday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 112 stocks, of which 34 advanced, 57 declined, and 21 traded firm. The winners are KLE Group, ISP Finance Services, Cygnus Real Estate Financially JMD, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company. While leading the losers are Productive Business Solutions 9.25 perpetual cumulative USD, Iron Rock Insurance Company, Access Financial Services, and Jamaican Teas. Now the main index declined by 1,355.38 points or 0.44% to close at 307,247.69 points. The junior market index declined by 48.78 points or 1.39% to close at 3,462.25 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by Chris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
And we go now to our Market Education Feature. In today's feature, we'll be explaining the term inheritance tax. An inheritance tax is a levy charged on the person who receives assets from someone who has passed away. That means if you inherit money, property, or other valuables, you may be required to pay a tax on what you receive. Unlike estate tax, which is paid out of the deceased person's estate, inheritance tax is typically paid by the beneficiary. The amount due depends on the value of the assets received and the laws of the country or state involved. In many cases, the closer your relationship to the deceased, the lower the tax or none at all. For instance, spouses are usually exempt, and charitable organizations that receive donations from an estate are generally not required to pay an inheritance tax.
The Market Education Feature was brought to you by Chris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local segment of the newscast. Please do stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Diamond Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Are so much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
Welcome back, and now for the regional business news. In a strategic effort to close the persistent financing gap confronting small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs in Guyana, the Inter-American Development Bank, in collaboration with the Private Sector Commission, PSC, has launched a business support desk. The new platform was developed following extensive consultations and an IDB study which found a disconnect between small businesses struggling to get funding and lenders who say these businesses are too risky or unprepared for investment. Speaking at the platform launch recently, IDB consultant Jared Kisoon says the desk will offer tailored capacity building, forge strategic partnership, and deliver market-focused solutions to help businesses become investment ready.
Our unique value proposition is to empower Guyanese businesses operating outside of the oil and gas sector. We want to achieve success by providing tailored capacity building services, facilitating strategic partnerships, and offering innovative market responsive solutions. Through direct engagement and strategic linkages with financial institutions, business service providers that have been shortlisted by the Inter-American Development Bank, and private sector entities like the Chamber of Commerce, like the Manufacturing Association, like the Tourism and Hospitality Association, and all of the support members of the Private Sector Commission. The Business Support Desk is actively strengthening access to finance and fostering sustainable growth across our non-extractive industries. This ultimately contributes to a more resilient and diversified Guyanese economy, creating much-needed buoyancy in non-traditional and non-oil sectors.
That was IDB consultant Jared Kisoon. In a major move to boost economic development and retain lottery revenues within the Federation, the National Assembly has passed the landmark National Lotteries Authority Bill 2025. The new legislation establishes a government-controlled National Lotteries Authority, NLA, tasked with overseeing all lottery operations across St. Kitts and Nevis. Currently, an estimated $70 million EC dollars in lottery revenues exit the country annually through offshore operators. Making his contribution to the National Lotteries Authority Bill in Parliament recently, Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew says the bill mandates that all lottery winnings, salaries, and procurement linked to the NLA must remain within the Federation to support local businesses and job creation.
The proposed system under a National Lotteries Authority is projected to generate. I was shocked, Madam Deputy Speaker, when I asked for an analysis of what happens with lottery here in St. Kitts and Nevis. The lottery system presently generates around EC $70 million per year. And of that, the only thing that is paid directly to the government is $50,000 of $70 million that is generated. And hardly anybody in St. Kitts win. So it's like they're just taking the money out of St. Kitts and Nevis. That cannot continue.
Prime Minister Drew says this bill will also provide job opportunities for the people of the Federation.
This money will be set aside before any other spending is done, no longer absorbed into general government revenue. There's also a direct employment benefit. A local subsidiary will be established. Approximately 20 nationals will be directly employed, with many more receiving income as sale agents, etc. This will provide much more jobs for our people.
Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew. In other news, St. Lucia is accelerating plans to deepen trade and investment ties with Africa following the visit of Nigerian President Bola Tinubu and the signing of multiple bilateral cooperation agreements last month. In his Emancipation Day address, Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre confirmed that several Memorandum of Understanding MOUs were signed between the two countries, laying the groundwork for economic, educational, and cultural partnerships across St. Lucia and the wider OECS region.
That during the visit of the President and his delegation, several Memoranda of Understanding were established for fostering economic, social, and educational relations with St. Lucia and the OECS. My administration will do its best to ensure that these MOUs bear fruit at the earliest possible opportunity.
Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Philip J. Pierre. And it's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 24 securities, of which 9 advanced, 10 declined, and 5 traded firm. Today's winners are L.J. Williams, Point Leases Industrial Port Development Corporation, CIBC Caribbean Bank, and National Enterprises. While leading the losers are One Caribbean Media, Guardian Media, Angostura Holdings, and Trinidad Cement. Now trading resulted in the following movements. The All TNT Index declined by 2.48 points to close at 1,454.33. The Composite Index, however, advanced by 3.31 points to close at 1,010.59. The Cross-Listed Index also advanced, but by 1.33 points to close at 75.02. And the SME Index remained at 100.27. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment with Nielsen Rose is up next.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. In the international news today, WTI crude futures dipped toward $65.50 per barrel on Monday as markets reacted to OPEC Plus's decision to increase production and rising geopolitical tensions. The group confirmed the planned output hike of 547,000 barrels per day starting in September, completing the rollback of voluntary cuts made in 2023. Although expected, the move has reinforced concerns that global supply may soon exceed demand, potentially leading to higher inventories. Uncertainty remains over whether OPEC Plus will continue raising output. Meanwhile, soft U.S. jobs data has added to fears of an economic slowdown, especially amid new tariffs introduced by the Trump administration. Traders are also closely watching potential U.S. actions targeting Russian oil exports. President Trump has threatened secondary sanctions on countries purchasing Russian crude, India in particular, with measures possibly taking effect as early as August 8th. The US dollar index fell below 99 on Monday, extending losses from the previous session after a weaker than expected July jobs report intensified expectations for Federal Reserve rate cuts. Non-farm payrolls increased by just 73,000, well below the market projections, while downward revisions totaling 258,000 to previous months pointed to deeper labor market weaknesses. Markets are now nearly fully pricing in rate cut in September, with over 63 basis points of easing anticipated by year-end. Tensions escalated further after President Donald Trump dismissed Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner Erica McIntyre on Friday, accusing her of manipulating employment data. Investors are also assessing the broader economic impact of Trump's sweeping retaliatory tariffs, which could weigh on both growth and inflation. The dollar weakened against the British pound, Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, while edging slightly higher versus the euro and the yen. Wayfair's stock surged 13% in pre-market trading after the company posted its strongest revenue growth and profitability since 2021. For Q2 2025, Wayfair reported revenues of $3.3 billion, beating expectations, and diluted earnings of 11 cents per share, far above forecasts for a loss. U.S. revenue rose 5.3%, while international sales grew 3.1%. Tyson Foods also impressed, raising its annual revenue growth forecast following solid Q3 results. The company reported adjusted earnings of 91 cents per share and revenue of $13.88 billion, both topping analyst estimates. Strong chicken sales helped offset weaker beef volumes, and Tyson's now expect fiscal year sales to grow between 2 and 3%. Chinese tech companies are emerging as frontrunners in the rapidly evolving field of AI-generated video, with platforms such as Kling AI gaining a global traction. Developed by Beijing-based Kuaishou, Kling AI allows users to create videos from text or images and is already used by over 20,000 businesses worldwide. UBS securities analyst Wei Xiong noted that competition in AI video generation is still in its early stages, but Chinese firms are quickly establishing a dominance in the area. Zhang Yushen, head of operations at Kling AI, highlighted that most of the platform's user base and revenue now come from overseas markets, including Japan, South Korea, and Europe. The latest version, Kling 2.1, features automatic sound effect integration and enhanced video rendering capabilities. Analysts believe these tools could revolutionize content creation by improving efficiency, lowering production barriers, and opening new monetization avenues. And those were your international business stories. After the break, join Rondine for your recap.
And now to recap our top stories in the local news. Jamaica's economic stability holds firm, but election uncertainty casts doubt over investor confidence. Regionally, IDB launches business support desks to unlock SME financing in Guyana. And internationally, WTI crude oil futures slipped below $67 amid OPEC Plus production increase. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of Nielsen Rose and the entire production team, I'm Rondine Williams, thanking you for watching CBX, your region, Your business, your source.